There's a lot happening internationally, globally, and India is right in the center of this Chakravyuh of changing dynamics and equations internationally. To talk more about this and where are we in this Chakravyuh, it is my proud privilege to welcome on the Chakravyuh podcast Ambassador Kanwal Sibal. Where do you see India right now in midst of this global Chakravyuh as we look at America suddenly cozying up to Pakistan and Asim Munir, is in America for the second time in a couple of months. The way America calls Pakistan a phenomenal partner in the war on terror, and the way 25% plus an additional 25% sanctions have been imposed on a close strategic partner that India is.
Well, we have been through these kind of difficulties in the past. The country that has sanctioned us the most and weakened our strategic rise in a very material way for a few decades was the United States of America. After the nuclear deal in 2005, relations began to improve, and the United States walked back from those sanctions, realized that they were futile. Since India had gone nuclear, there was no way that they could push back India's nuclear program, so they had to reconcile with a new India and potentially much more powerful India. And since we had also started liberalizing our economy, so they had then an enhanced economic interest in the Indian market. And then it's around this time, not quite, there were problems that were arising in US-China relations because China had begun to rise phenomenally. Yes. And after Xi Jinping came to power and he unveiled his cards, then it was quite clear that it was not the China of Deng Xiaoping or Hu Jintao that US was dealing with, but a much more assertive nationalist China which has certain ambitions and which had declared that by 2050 they will be at the center of international relations, which means either equal to or displacing the United States. So that also increased US interest in India. And then there was a big change in India-US relations, where today US is our biggest economic partner, biggest trade partner in goods and services, biggest investor in India. It's become a very significant defense partner with about $24 billion of defense trade between the two countries. And so many other agreements have taken place in order to strengthen our defense ties, whether it's the foundational agreements or Malabar exercises or bilateral air-naval air-naval land exercises, tri-services exercises. They name the Pacific Command as the Indo-Pacific Command. There's the Quad. There is the whole Indo-Pacific strategy. So look at the change.
And now are we witnessing another change all of a sudden?
No, what I meant is that there are these fluctuations in international relations, and India has gone through them. And not only has India survived, but India has emerged stronger. As the challenges have become stronger, we've had to redefine our own thinking and approach and policies, and have emerged stronger, as I said, fourth largest economy this year and third largest by 2030. Though, mind you, the gap between us and China or us and the United States is very considerable.
Yes.
But we are a rising market, a huge consumer market, 1.4 billion people, where domestic consumptions will go up, rate of growth, 6 point whatever percent. Look at the huge prospect other countries have in the Indian market. I mean, the Western countries in particular. Therefore, India is going to be very, very important. Look at Europe. They are growing at 1%, 0.5%, or whatever else. And other countries, small countries, they may be growing at a rapid rate, but the market is too small. China is the biggest defense supplier to Pakistan. This is a chimera. This is a kind of a fantasy that some people seem to have with regard to what they can do in Pakistan. And therefore, there's a big question mark, almost unthinkable. What is the reason? What is the reason that they are mollycoddling Pakistan, building up Pakistan?
What comes to your mind, sir?
It's obvious, no? Part of it.
To counter India's rise.
Keep a pressure point on India.
So they haven't changed. They may call us their comprehensive strategic partner, but the aim is a subservient India,
No,
a servile India.
no. They know we can't be a servile India. Even when we were weak, we were not servile. So when we are strong, we are not going to be servile. Certainly not. I think they understand that. They understand that. The previous administration understood it and specifically stated so that we're not looking for a military alliance. We know that India is against military alliances. It's a long game. Progressively, they want to wean away India from its past relationships. So it's not as if they think that India is a country that can be pressured into doing what they want. I think this much they understand. But in order to make sure that India wings do not grow too large and starts flying up in the air far too high, they need some pressure points.
So one pressure point is Pakistan,
is the most important and the immediate pressure point. Certainly.
and the other one is Bangladesh now.
That again, yes, because the manner in which they worked for the ouster of Sheikh Hasina and got these Islamists into power, knowing fully well that this is what is going to happen. They opened a new pressure point. And here's the irony of it. Who's trying to bring Bangladesh and Pakistan together? China.
Yeah.
Wang Yi had a meeting
True.
with both of them. True. And America has got into the game. So both China and United States see indirectly working together to create problems for India in Bangladesh.
So neither China nor America want India to rise.
Well, want India to rise. India will rise whether they want it or not. But the point is they must have some levers of pressure. And they would like to retain those. That doesn't mean that they only want to rely on the levers of pressure. They also have separate vital interests in India for obvious reasons. So they'll continue to court us and have relationship with us, but not give up. There are other options. Now, in a very different way, here we have to be realistic. We do these things ourselves, don't we? We want to keep a foot in every door, but not with the same kind of intention of using leverages to destabilize or put pressure on others, but to protect our interests. Now, we are very solidly committed to our relationship with Russia, no matter what the United States thinks.
And you're very confident of that. You've been...
Yeah, and therefore, the United States has been unhappy. They've been saying that. And now Trump has brought this issue up in the air once again, rather surprisingly, objecting to our oil trade and our defense trade with Russia, which means it rankles within the system. After all, he's not alone in this. There must be other people who are also of the same view and feeding this kind of a thing into the system. So despite that, India has stood firm. Now, they can argue that India may have whatever is their views on Pakistan, but we have our own interests in Pakistan. Therefore, we will continue to have relationship with Pakistan. If India doesn't want to, thinks that it has strategic autonomy, then we too have strategic autonomy. So we'll do what we want.
And what did you think of India's statement that when we said America continues to buy uranium hexafluoride or palladium or chemicals and fertilizers from Russia? Not a word after that. Europe continues to buy LNG from Russia and no sanctions on them, but 25% sanctions on us. No additional sanctions on China. So is he just bullying India?
Yes.
Just pure bullying?
Yes. Yes. And the fun thing is that I was looking at statistics. I put it on X this morning, I think, or yesterday. I looked at statistics from 2022 when the Ukraine conflict began. And when Europe was applying all the sanctions that they could possibly think of along with America on Russia, their total import of Russian gas, LNG, and refined petroleum products is $214 billion.
Wow.
And if you look at the LNG imports from Russia, beginning 2022, every year they have increased by a sizable percentage.
Yes.
Right? Look at the hypocrisy of all this. Look at Turkey. It's the biggest buyer of refined products from Russia. No sanctions. Japan gets a very sizable amount of oil from Russia because they were in fact, partner with us in
Yes.
trilateral deals with the Americans in Sakhalin. They're still getting,
Yes.
I understand, I'm not too sure of the figure, that 8% of the energy needs of Tokyo it comes from what they import from Russia. So Japan is not targeted, but India is. India is. But why?
So-
And the funny part is, and this you know, I mean, you know even as well as I do, and we've said that officially, that is the Americans who encouraged us
Yes.
to buy,
Eric
continue
Garcetti.
buying, and others too,
And
to
others
continue
too.
buying Russian oil so as to keep the price of oil globally stable. Because the 5 million barrels a day went out of the market, that's the Russian oil, then the price of oil would have shot up to maybe $200,
$150 per
$150,
barrel.
and
No,
would
so-
have affected the American consumer.
So when he knows all of this, yet he says this, does he expect India to just stay silent, accept it like several countries? You know, Japan is a treaty ally and it accepted it. South Korea is a treaty ally. They have American forces deployed there and they've accepted it. European Union, though European Union now is saying, no, we haven't committed the money. Japan also seems to be furiously backpedaling, saying we may invest. He just wants that big headline. Should we also give him that big headline?
See, there's a big difference. All the three entities you mentioned, EU, South Korea, Japan, they're all dependent on US for their security.
Yes.
There's a China threat in Western Pacific. There's now Ukraine war where Russia is seen as a threat. So they have very little room for maneuver. We don't depend on United States for our security. We have more room for maneuver.